It used to be different. You caught a cold, spent a day in bed, maybe two. Then you were up again, cooking, walking, brushing it off as nothing worth mentioning. Now, it lingers. The sore throat fades, but the cough stays. The fatigue doesn't end with sleep. The sniffles stretch out for 10, 12 days, and when they finally leave, they take your appetite and your strength with them. And each time it happens, the same quiet question rises. Why is it harder to bounce back now? You haven't changed how you live, not really. You eat, you move, you try to stay careful, but your body responds slower. You catch things more easily. And once you do, it takes longer to feel like yourself again. That shift isn't dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with sirens or tests, but you feel it in your bones, in your breath, in the pace of your healing. People often describe it with simple phrases. I just don't shake things off like I used to. My immune system isn't what it was. And quietly, almost apologetically, I guess it's just age. But there's more to it than that. The immune system doesn't disappear after 70. It adapts. It recalibrates. It becomes more cautious, less aggressive, more prone to confusion. It starts to make trade-offs, protecting some functions while letting others slip by. And sometimes, it simply forgets how to respond quickly. Your body can still defend itself, but it does so with different tools, slower reflexes, and an immune memory that's no longer as sharp as it once was. Some people start noticing more infections. Others don't get sick more often, but stay sick longer. Cuts that once healed in a few days now remain tender for weeks. Vaccines feel less effective. Coughs turn into chest colds. And the line between just tired and something's not right becomes harder to read. But none of this means your health is doomed. It means your immune system is speaking in a new voice, and you have to learn to listen. It also means there are still ways to help. Not with complicated treatments or extreme regimens, but with consistent, thoughtful habits that fit your life now. Because while you can't turn the clock back, you can give your immune system the conditions it needs to do its job, as well as it can, for as long as it can. This video is about understanding that new voice, about knowing what's changed and what hasn't. We'll walk through the biology, but we'll stay grounded in real life. How the immune system actually ages. Why illness feels different now. What habits quietly undermine your defenses, and which ones rebuild them gently over time. We'll talk food, movement, sleep, light, good health, and the small signals worth noticing before they turn into symptoms. Not because fear will help you, but because clarity will. If you've been catching more colds than usual, or if even a mild illness now seems to leave you slower for longer, you're not imagining it. Sometimes it's not the frequency of sickness, but how it feels when it arrives, and how long it stays. There are people who used to move easily through crowded places, but now hesitate before saying yes to dinner or travel. Not out of fear, but because the recovery feels heavier, the risk more real. Your body isn't weaker. It's different. And learning how to support it now may be one of the quietest, most valuable kinds of care you can give yourself. So let me ask you, when was the last time you got sick, and did it feel different than it used to? There is no single switch that changes how the immune system works after 70. No dramatic collapse. No loud signal. Instead, it shifts slowly, like a river finding a new path, a little more winding, a little less forceful. Most people notice it only in passing. They stay sick longer than they used to. A small cut on the finger takes its time to heal. Vaccines don't take as well. And they catch things they thought they'd already built immunity to. A seasonal virus, a common cold, an infection that once passed without notice. The immune system has two branches. The innate, which acts first and fast, and the adaptive, which remembers what it's seen before. And with age, both start to falter, not entirely, but noticeably. The innate branch becomes less aggressive. The body doesn't send white blood cells with the same urgency. Inflammation takes longer to rise and longer to fall. It's like an army that's still there, still trained, but no longer quick to mobilize. Meanwhile, the adaptive immune system, the one that holds memory of past infections and builds targeted responses, starts to forget. Or rather, it stops updating itself. The production of fresh, naive T cells, the ones that respond to new threats, slows down. the immune system starts reusing old strategies for new problems. This is why older adults often struggle with new viruses more than children do. Children's systems are messy but fast. They adapt on the fly. They recover quickly. Older bodies proceed with caution. They assess, react conservatively, and sometimes miss the threat entirely until it's already spread. It's also why the body may overreact to small things. Chronic low-grade inflammation becomes more common. The immune system is active, but not accurate. Instead of attacking invaders, it begins to target the body's own tissue or stays in a state of unnecessary alert. This contributes to fatigue, slow healing, and even joint pain that seems to come from nowhere. None of this means you're fragile. It means the rules of defense have changed. The systems are still there, just tuned differently. Imagine a home with the same number of locks and windows, but a security system that responds more slowly or misreads the weather as a break-in. Protection is possible, but it now depends more on prevention, on clarity, and on support. One of the subtler changes is how the immune system makes itself known. Where there used to be clear signs, fever, aches, chills, now there's often only a sense of heaviness, a tiredness that doesn't lift, a quiet fog that settles in the afternoon and doesn't shake loose by morning. No sharp edges, just the slow presence of something not quite right. The body still responds, but the signal is quieter, and if you're not paying attention, it's easy to miss or to dismiss it as just getting older. But those moments of slowness, that longer healing time, the low energy that follows even a simple cold, they aren't failures. They're the immune system doing its work in a new way, more carefully, with fewer resources, but still faithfully. You don't need to diagnose every symptom, but you can learn to notice the difference between how you once recovered and how it feels now. Not to worry, just to understand. So let me ask you, have you noticed that healing takes longer now? And if so, when did that shift first stand out to you? It doesn't start with a dramatic illness. There's no emergency, no sudden collapse. It's just a head cold that doesn't go away. A cough that lingers long after the sore throat is past. A tiredness that clings to the end of what should have been a short recovery. Many older adults begin to notice that what used to be a few days off now turns into a full week. And even when the worst of the symptoms fade, something doesn't feel quite finished. You feel fine, but not fully. Back to normal, but slower, not quite steady, like your body hasn't quite exhaled yet. This is one of the most common ways people experience the aging immune system. It's not that you're getting sick more often, but that can happen too. It's that once something gets in, your body takes longer to respond, longer to clean it out, and longer to rebuild what it used to recover in a weekend. Part of this comes from how immune cells behave. They arrive slower. They multiply less quickly. They communicate with less urgency. And when a virus spreads, even a familiar one, it takes more time for your internal defenses to coordinate, respond, and repair. It's like calling a team to fix a leak, only to find out they're still on lunch, the truck is out of gas, and someone misplaced the blueprint. None of this means your body isn't trying. It's trying constantly. But the tools are different now. What used to be a brief phase of illness now feels more like a quiet occupation. The virus doesn't knock down the door, it lingers in the hallway. And while it may not be dangerous, it overstays its welcome. This extended recovery isn't only physical. It affects mood, appetite, motivation. You may find yourself skipping routines, not because you're very ill, but because something inside hasn't settled. The body holds back energy, not in panic, but in caution. And that caution makes everything take longer. Wounds close more slowly. Bruises fade in slow motion. Even inflammation, when it comes, has a different tone. Less sharp, more stubborn. You may begin to expect this rhythm, to plan for extra days, to keep a blanket nearby just in case. And quietly, without intending to, you may stop trusting your own timing. You start to assume that once you get sick, you'll be out of step for a while. Not from fear, but from experience. This is how the immune system changes daily life. Not with catastrophe, but with duration. It's not that the body can't fight. It simply fights with different rhythms, slower, more deliberate, and less willing to burn through all its resources at once. So if you felt like colds now stretch into weeks, or if recovery leaves you flat even after the symptoms are gone, you're not overreacting. You're noticing. And noticing matters. So let me ask you this. How long does it take you to truly feel well again? Not just better, but whole, after you've been sick. It's easy to imagine that immune strength depends on something big, an infection, a vaccine, a serious illness. But often, it's the smallest patterns that shift the most important outcomes. And as we grow older, the patterns that once felt harmless begin to leave a mark. Take movement, for example. A few decades ago, you could go a full morning without sitting down. Now the body settles into the chair faster, stays there longer, and the energy needed to get back up sometimes feels just out of reach. But the immune system depends on motion. Not intense, not athletic, just regular. Movement stimulates circulation. Circulation brings immune cells to where they're needed. And when the day passes without that movement, the immune response softens, slows, and begins to forget what it's supposed to patrol. Then there's hydration. Many older adults drink less water than their bodies require, not out of neglect, but because thirst fades with age. You don't feel the cue, so you don't respond to it. But every immune cell functions in fluid. The drier the system, the harder it becomes to transport, to signal, to heal. And then sleep, perhaps the quietest of all immune allies. Interrupted nights, early waking, long stretches of shallow rest. These don't seem dramatic, but they carry weight. Sleep is when immune memory is written, when repair is prioritized, and when inflammation resets. Without deep rest, the immune system stays in a holding pattern, alert but disorganized. Nutrition plays a role that's easy to underestimate. Many seniors eat less, not intentionally, but because digestion has slowed, or because cooking for one feels like too much trouble. Protein intake drops. Meals become simpler, smaller, and often less varied. But the body still needs the building blocks of defense: amino acids for repair, vitamins for signaling, minerals for balance. Micronutrients like zinc, vitamin D, selenium, all crucial for immune health, are often missing, especially in diets that lean heavily on toast, tea, or sweets. Even low-level deficiencies, when sustained, can lower immune response just enough to change how your body handles what once felt routine. And then there's the invisible weight of stress. Not loud stress, not dramatic life events, but quiet tension, isolation, change in routine, low-grade worry that sits in the background of every day. Cortisol, the hormone of stress, affects immunity directly. It can delay healing, suppress inflammation when it's needed, blur the line between tired and sick, and the immune system listens, even when the rest of the world doesn't notice. This is why small habits matter, not because they cause illness, but because, over time, they create the ground on which illness takes root or gets turned away. So if you've been sitting more, sleeping lightly, drinking less, eating whatever's convenient, don't judge it, but notice it, because noticing is how new habits begin. Let me ask you something personal. Which of your daily routines feels like it might be making you a little more vulnerable, even if it seems harmless? There's a kind of wisdom that comes with aging, not just in thought, but in how the body responds. It learns, over time, what helps and what hinders. And while immune function may slow with age, it also becomes more responsive to support, if that support is steady, real, and gentle. Food is one of the most direct ways to make a difference. Not supplements, not powders or promises. Just actual meals that carry the things your body still craves, whether or not your appetite makes it clear. Protein helps rebuild cells, not just muscles, but the immune cells that live short, busy lives. Without enough of it, your body struggles to regenerate what it uses every day. Eggs, legumes, yogurt, poultry, fish, nothing extreme, just presence and frequency. Fermented foods like kefir, sauerkraut, or plain yogurt support gut bacteria, which in turn modulate immune responses. A large part of the immune system lives in the gut wall, and the bacteria that thrive there play a role in how the body perceives and reacts to outside threats. Add color, when you can. Blueberries, carrots, spinach, tomatoes. Not because they're trendy, but because the compounds that give them color often also reduce inflammation and oxidative stress. And when real food is hard to manage, when energy or interest is low, even small things help. A cup of soup, a spoon of nut butter, a piece of cheese with fruit. Support doesn't need to look like a meal. It only needs to reach your body in a form it can use. Movement, too, can shift immune tone, not with intensity, but with rhythm. A short walk, done daily. Stretching the spine in the morning. Lifting light objects not to build strength, but to remind the body that it's still needed. Each movement calls the immune system into light action. It circulates blood, warms the tissues, alerts the system that life is still happening, that defense is still relevant. And fresh air, even when it's cool, often carries more benefit than another hour indoors. Exposure to daylight supports vitamin D production. And even 10 minutes of sun on skin, a few times a week, can shift immune balance more than a cabinet full of pills. Sleep matters here, too, as does warmth, as does touch, conversation, music, curiosity, and breath. Because the immune system doesn't respond only to threats. It responds to the full climate of the body, to whether it feels safe, stimulated, nourished, and seen. You don't have to become someone else to protect yourself. You don't have to overhaul your life or live by charts. You only need to bring small, thoughtful things back into view, the ones you already know help, but maybe forgot to prioritize. So I'll leave you with this. What's one simple thing, food, movement, moment, that you know helps you feel more resilient, but hasn't had space in your day lately? Most of the time, the immune system works in the background. It fights, heals, repairs, and resets, quietly, without thanks, without notice. But sometimes, the body begins to send signals that something deeper is out of balance. And those signals deserve more than patience. They deserve attention. Not every cold is a crisis. Not every lingering cough means something serious. But when certain patterns repeat, when recovery seems to never quite finish, when energy doesn't return even after rest, it may be time to listen more closely. Some signs are obvious. Recurring infections, 2, 3, 4 times a year, even if they're mild, can point to an immune system that's struggling to keep pace. Skin wounds that take too long to close. Bruises that appear without explanation and fade far more slowly than they used to. There are also signs that don't look like illness at first glance. A sore in the mouth that won't heal. A low-grade fever that comes and goes without clear reason. Constant fatigue that doesn't ease with sleep or food. These aren't emergencies, but they are signals. And ignoring them often leads to more complex problems later, when the body's balance tips from slow recovery into open vulnerability. One of the more subtle signs is inflammation that doesn't calm. It may show up as joint stiffness that lingers too long, or as digestive discomfort that repeats, even with bland foods, or as an overall sense of heaviness, where every part of the day feels like more effort than it used to require. The challenge isn't always in noticing that something feels different. It's in choosing to speak about it, especially when the change is slow, quiet, or hard to describe. Many people hesitate to bring up vague concerns. They wait for a clearer symptom, for something measurable. But the immune system doesn't always announce itself in obvious ways. It often speaks through delayed recovery, unusual fatigue, or a sense of imbalance that doesn't match your usual rhythm. That's why small details matter. A longer than usual cold, a sore that doesn't heal, a tiredness that feels unfamiliar. These are not inconveniences to ignore. They are moments worth noticing and sometimes worth mentioning. Even a simple conversation can change how you view what your body is trying to say. Sometimes clarity begins not with a diagnosis, but with being heard. If this video helped you understand your body a little better or reminded you of something you've been meaning to take care of, consider subscribing. We talk often about quiet changes, real solutions, and the small things that make a difference in later life. And thank you for watching. Truly, your time here matters, and I'm grateful you shared it with me.